Hey, Rethinking Housing in New Zealand. And note, this video is an actual video, it's not just an audio of me, so please look at the screen so I can easily show you exactly how this works. Okay, what you're looking at the bottom of the screen is a road, and we're going to develop from it. There's your bus stop. Okay, so we start from there with a bus stop. Around there is a huge car park for everybody's cars. And note, this will support a village of about the size of 400 persons. And because you've got a concentrated demand, it makes sense to have a special section for hire cars. And this hire car service can be all part of the residential club. And that's what it is, to stress. It's a residential club. Just like a football club or anything else, all these facilities are owned by everybody. You don't just buy your house in the land package, you buy into the whole club. Right there is a convenience store slash cafe bakery type thing, which 400 persons can easily support something like that as a combined unit. You'll have no difficulty having busy staff members, or maybe one staff member. There's your nice little outdoor area. And note, when you're building from the ground up, it's very easy to make things nice rather than almost impossible and painful retrofitting. And here's the great thing about it. That's not a normal road. That is a golf cart track, 2 meters wide, virtually a golf cart track, because it only supports fully automated golf carts. If that sounds silly to you, just take note that this technology already exists. You can buy it off the shelf, such as the Heathrow pod. Only travels 25 to 30 kilometers per hour top speed. So it's very, very efficient, extremely low cost, and you've just annihilated the cost of otherwise huge, heavy roading. And, well, what to me is the biggest advantage of all is where those big, wide, 10-meter wide roads were, throw it away and replace it with garden grass and trees and natural sounds instead of the sound of tire roar and internal combustion engines. In other words, a really nice residential environment, almost like a botanic garden. And it's very discreet. It's a one-way system, because that's all it needs to be when it's just doing a hoop of around about 500 meters or something around that. It'll only throw on another extra 30 seconds on a very pleasant trip. Okay, and that's just one 2-meter wide road, which is also unidirectional because it supports very low demand, because it's only supporting, well, there's a turnstile there, but it's only supporting about 7 houses. So like a one-way bridge, you just wait the odd time you need to wait for another little golf cart to come through, and it'll be almost never that happens because, again, the demand is so low. It's just like a long driveway, basically, supporting a cul-de-sac. Okay, so there's our close-up. Discrete walkway that goes from the turnstile to the houses. And that whole internal area there can be built to be really, really nice. Again, whenever you're building something like this from the ground up and you're not worrying about big, heavy roads and cars, you've just got so much design flexibility. It's so easy to make things nice. You can bury it in trees if you like, or shrubs and ferns and whatever. Keep all the environmentalists happy. Make it a super nice walkway. But also in these clusters, I tend to call them clusters, these little cul-de-sac areas, extremely important, and you want to force this with covenants for the development to make sure no one's looking down on anybody else's backyard. Nobody wants that. And it's not hard. You can design things structurally to ensure that there's no line of sight going onto people's backyards, so you can still build it in a highly efficient townhouse type structure, like 2-story buildings, so everyone gets a porch, a really nice deck, and to also carefully design it to make sure everyone gets a really good amount of sun in the afternoon or morning or whatever they want. Again, all that takes is just a little bit of careful thinking right from the beginning. When you're not retrofitting a development, when you're doing it from the ground up, all of this becomes very, very easy. Okay, so we'll expand the image a bit. There we have it. That's 119 houses supporting approximately 400 persons. That there, what I've drawn, don't worry about the proportions. It's all schematic. is hugely generous on land, of course, and it can be. I mean, ultimately, if you're building this on rural cost land, if it goes outside the rural urban boundary, it's so cheap, the land. And you can turn all of that in between the houses into a forest, a food forest. You can put tennis courts in there. It's all part of the residential club. Swimming pool, whatever you want. And by building it as a private residential club, you have another incredibly important advantage. Please don't call me a snob for this, but it means you can keep the criminal class away. So you don't have people screaming at their kids at 3 o'clock in the morning and having parties that seem to never end with awful thumping bass, blah, blah, blah. So you get a really nice atmosphere. And because you can gate it on that level, it means even though the housing is so cheap, you're not going to get the underclass moving in. So it allows people who are not earning much more than the minimum wage to still live very well, presuming they're basically civilized and decent. And then as it is a club, people can work together on, in part, I presume, voluntary labour to maintain everything. Or informal labour, just, like babysitting money type thing. Go and take care of the cafe and we'll give you $15 an hour cash for some school kid or whatever. It can be very, very casual like that. Again, it's a residential club and very much a club. And at that size I've drawn there, even from that position, people can develop homeschooling clubs if they want, or anything like that as well. So it becomes, people can work together as they wish, build it, they can have everything operate in their own image, to really knock back the cost of living. And also with these developments, why not catch water off the roof? Why not use compost toilets? Why not really slash those costs on that level as well? Just move a bit closer to a rural format. No reason why you can't do it. And then there's the other obvious question. Well, Andrew, how big should they be? Why stop at 120 houses? Fair enough. If you go to 1,000 houses, which you could do developments like that if you wish, you can expand the internal facilities much more, of course. And if you build it close to a coastline, you can have direct access through the automated golf cart system to the beach or a river or something like that, which is really, really cool. Whatever. But you'll still get all the critical advantages, even on a small scale like this. True environmentalists, not communists pretending to be environmentalists, but true environmentalists should love it because it's extraordinarily sustainable, the most form of sustainable property development you can get. And make no mistake, we have a massive amount of room for urban expansion. Only 0.8% of New Zealand's land area, that's 1 part in 120, is urbanised. And it's a food forest anyway, if you want it to be, so it's still a farm. So they should love it. There shouldn't be technically a huge amount of political resistance to it. And people can work online now. So, with these new developments, you could find that you start filling it up with a lot of people who are, as they call it, hybrid workers, mostly working at home, every now and then coming into the office, because they certainly won't mind a bit more of a commute. Perfect feeder system for hire cars and buses, shuttle buses and all that sort of thing. So again, it's very, very efficient. And if you use good quality kit sets from China, they do exist, good quality ones of various forms, you could possibly buy a house, a home outright that's expandable if you want to have kids later or whatever, for as little as $150,000 in a beautiful context, protected from the nasty human factor with its gating, getting in and wrecking everything for everybody. So here's my question to Planet New Zealand. Why on earth don't we move in this level of property development? And so much design freedom, so easy to do, so affordable. The latent demand is massive, and I would even argue that we could comfortably and efficiently and cleanly expand New Zealand's population with immigrants right up to 50 million people, if we so choose, if we wanted that. Fill it up with a whole lot more doctors and nurses and engineers and people who are going to take care of us in our old age. Ha ha. The climate and topography of New Zealand compared to other places in the world is simply incredible. It's begging for this kind of property development. The dream of modern urban planners, well, this is what's been taught them through their planning school, is to basically, and I'm being pretty harsh when I say this, but it's true, trying to turn New Zealand into Hong Kong. Of all the places on this earth that you'd want to do that, New Zealand should be the very, very last place you would ever want to do that. That's not what New Zealand is about or should be about, and certainly not what it needs to be about. So this is my model. Tell me what you think. Thank you. Okay, this is just a quick extension to give you an idea to my brother did this for me, some very, very basic renderings, so you can get a more of an imaginative idea of what I'm talking about. Right, so that's like the main car park with the coffee place that I spoke about before. To the right is a normal car park, and to the left, or wherever it works, are hire cars. Take note of the tracks that lead towards that area. That's not a walkway, that's for the golf carts. Coming into your neighbourhood, going through the golf cart track, turnstile in the middle, as you can see, that's essentially the feel that it would have. Although in a real one, you would have a lot more plants than that. This is of course, a basic rendering. Now, the houses look quite glam here. You'd expect it to cost a lot of money, but no way. They're actually very, very simple and relatively small, as depicted in these images. Making a good looking house is actually very easy. There's just some basic rules you need to conform to. 1. Use earthy colours, not primary colours. 2. Create a proper frontage, either a nice big veranda deck or something like that, so it doesn't look like an industrial shed. 3. Angled gabled roofs. A-frames, you are really, really good. And 4. Strong, rich, contrasting borders around the sizable windows. As long as you have these basics, it becomes pretty difficult to build an ugly house. You can always build an ugly house, but in this format, you can't go too wrong. Now, the front of the house has a friendly feeling to it, which will always have you really want that effect in a nice neighborhood feeling. It's not about privacy so much here. But the back of the houses is where you really want privacy. So you can have your privacy when you want it. And as I said earlier, this is where you want your strict covenants in place to make sure no one's looking down on your backyard. And as you can see with this image here, you get a really nice oasis-y sort of effect. That's what your neighborhood clusters are going to look like. Again, this is a very basic rendering, so there's going to be a whole lot more plants and trees all amongst this sort of area here. Okay, so that's just your bird's eye view. What's not included in the image are footpaths for people to walk on. They will attach somewhere like this. They wouldn't run directly alongside the golf carts. There's no need for that. They will be differentiated and quite curvy, so it's a nice, interesting walk. Absolutely no traffic. Every now and then you might cross over one of the golf cart ways, but that's nothing. That's not a problem at all. Okay, total opposite to barren, wide, big roads, carpet sprawl is what I'm suggesting here. And certainly the opposite to Auckland Council's vision for what they call smart growth is basically Hong Kong growth.